Good day, ladies and gentlemen. This is Sarel van Grenen, aka Mr. VG, and whoa, I am glad that you're joining me for this series in grade 11 exam preparation. So what we are going to do in this series is we are going to specifically look at the December or November 2020 paper from the Gauteng Department of Basic Education. But, and I'm saying this very clearly, ladies and gentlemen, I am not just going to stick to that exam paper. I'm also going to throw in some questions maybe from the Eastern Cape Department of Basic Education papers, or even some of my own questions, because I would love to take you on this journey with me. So this is Mr. VG, and I am excited to be on this journey with you. Stick with me, stay with me, and let's go for it, grade 11s. Our first question is question 1 out of the Department of Basic Education paper, which says you are given P and determine the values of X for which P is 1.1.1 equal to 0, 1.1.2 undefined. I want you to try it yourself first. Let's see if you've got this understanding and how to do it. If you've tried this yourself, let's have a look at the first question. What does it mean if an expression is equal to 0? Well, for an expression to be equal to 0, our only option is having 0 over something, especially when it is a fraction. So 0 in your numerator is what we are looking for. So looking back at P, I'm going to say, well, by putting the numerator equal to 0, I have x plus 2 times by 2x minus 1 equal to 0. Look at your mark allocation, ladies and gentlemen. Look at it. It's 2 marks. That's the reason why it's only 2 marks, because all I actually have to do is make x plus 2 0 or 2x minus 1 0, which means my two options are x is either negative 2 or 2x is 1, leading me towards x being a half. You might come and say, but so what about the 3 minus x? That's in the denominator. It has no effect on where the expression is equal to 0. But it does have an effect on 1.1.2. So when we talk about being undefined, remember, at this moment of time, you only have one option, and that is dividing by 0. So in other words, your denominator equal to 0. That is where an expression is undefined. But ladies and gents, it's not the only time in all of maths where an expression is undefined. Not at all. It's not at all the only time, but it is the time that we are going to look at mostly. So where will this specific expression be undefined? When 3 minus x is 0. In other words, where 3 is equal to x. Simple and straightforward, ladies and gents. But I'm not going to stop here. Let's do a quick recap of the basic type of questions you can expect. Your basic type of questions, and there are 3 of them. Your 3 types of questions are, first of all, when an expression is equal to 0, undefined, or non-real. Those are my 3 basic type of questions I can expect, and I've seen come up in exams over and over and over again. Paper 1 or paper 2. I've even seen this being asked in paper 2. So when they are asking you for equal to 0, I'm going to look where the numerator is equal to 0. Whatever is in the rest of the expression, I'm not going to worry about. Secondly, where it's undefined. That's when the denominator is equal to 0. Okay? Now I'm just going to add a small little thingy here at the bottom, a small little side note as well. Don't forget undefined is a lot of times, look, not always, but where there are asymptotes, specifically vertical asymptotes, okay? I'm putting this in as a side note for you when you've got paper 2 and there's, for instance, y equal to tan x. And a lot of times it's easy to forget that it's undefined where there are vertical asymptotes. Okay, let's carry on. What about non-real? Well, non-real is when I've got a negative under a square root. So these are my 3 basic types. So let's try and get this next one right. Where determine the value of x for which that expression is non-real. Okay, is an R, I humbly apologize. Okay, is or R, I'm a math teacher. Sometimes the English is a bit broken. But you try this one for me. Determine x for which that expression is non-real. For non-real, ladies and gents, remember the following. Under the square root must be a negative value. That is non-real values, not undefined. That's a different story. But under the root must be smaller than 0. So in other words, x squared minus 4, okay, must be smaller than 0. Oh, that is a silly mistake. You see how quickly a mistake comes in. I've just put there bigger than 0 because in my mind, I'm asking myself, where's this expression real? So let me quickly fix it. And as I've now fixed it and I made it smaller than 0, I'm going to factorize my left-hand side. But understand, ladies and gentlemen, this is now a quadratic inequality. So you have to solve it as a quadratic inequality. So how do I solve a quadratic inequality? I get equal to 0, factorize, I get my critical points, in other words, where that expression is equal to 0, so x equal to 2 or negative 2, and I draw a sketch. We are going to look more in detail about, or we're going to handle this in a lot more detail later on again in this exam, but for this expression, that is a parabola. Where is a parabola? Smaller than 0? Well, above the x-axis is bigger than 0. Below the x-axis is smaller than 0. I'm looking for smaller than 0. I'm looking for that part of my expression. How do I get that? Now, ladies and gents, here's a nice little trick. Okay, on your piece of paper, cover the bigger than equal or bigger than 0 part with your hand. If you cover it with your hand, what part of the sketch is left? Well, this part underneath the x-axis. So in other words, it's those x values that's going to be the answer for my question. So in other words, my answer is that x lies between negative 2 and 2. So let's just quickly analyze what this means. This means that my expression is non-real where x lies between negative 2 and 2. You understand what I'm asking you? If I ask you, and I'm just deciding this on a whim, I love this. What if I asked you for undefined? Okay, because they love to kind of mix these two things. Okay, again, undefined, ladies and gents, is when I have a 0 in the denominator. No matter what is in the numerator, a 0 in the denominator. So therefore, it's again, x minus 4 must be 0 for it to be undefined. So in other words, x is equal to 4. So whenever x is equal to 4, the expression is undefined. It doesn't exist. Okay? It goes against the definition. That's what undefined basically means. It goes against the definition. Now, what definition is there? It's a definition built into the foundation of mathematics that I'm never allowed to divide by 0. That is one of the foundational definitions we have in mathematics. I hope you enjoyed this video. So as a quick recap, remember, you've got to be careful about how we structure the questions. In these kind of questions, are we asking you for equal to 0? Are we asking you for undefined? Or are we asking you for non-real? If we are saying equal to 0 and there's a fraction, it's the numerator is equal to 0. If it's undefined, then your denominator equal to 0. Or if we say non-real, then there's a negative under the surd. Okay? I don't want to use the word roots so we don't get confused. So ladies and gents, tune in to our next sum where we are going to go into more depth with just equations, different types of equations, and we're going to have lots of fun. So this is Mr. VG signing out. Thank you for tuning in. Keep well. Cheers.